Real Virginia is produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Farming, it's all good. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy.
We meet a horse trainer who tames the wild out of the great American Mustang. There's nothing like homemade mac and cheese on a cold winter's day, and rural rescue squads encounter unusual equipment on the farm. We'll see how they train to save lives in the countryside.
Welcome back everyone. We're here at a rural fire department and rescue squad, and this is a place where they actually train to rescue not only farmers but also other accident victims. We're going to take you to one of those training sessions a little later on in our show. But speaking of training, extreme makeover programs are very popular on television these days, but usually they're for homes or someone's wardrobe and not for horses. The Extreme Mustang Makeover is coming to the Virginia Horse Festival, where folks can see how these wild Mustangs are trained and ready for their new owners.
Before these majestic creatures can show in the ring at the Virginia Horse Festival, it takes hours of training and love to take them from their wild ways to a trained trotter. Meet Richard Garner, a horse trainer in Chesapeake who has been training Mustangs since 2010, and his latest student, Gus. They will be part of the competition March 27th through the 29th at the Meadow Event Park in Caroline County. He and other volunteers do this for the love of the animals and for a chance to see who's the best trainer.
My wife and I have had since childhood, desire to adopt Mustangs, and we both arrived at that independently. And once we bought this property in 2009, we started talking about the Mustangs. And then once we started doing the research through the Bureau of Land Management, we adopted a few Mustangs and started training and gentling them, and then realized that there was the Extreme Mustang Makeover competitions. And being rather competitive, I said, you know what, I want to do this. Right. And so we did.
The competition is sponsored by the nonprofit Mustang Heritage Foundation. It helps find homes for wild horses in burrows removed from public lands in the West by the U.S. Bureau of Land Management because of overpopulation problems. The Bureau oversees more than 49,000 horses and burros living wild on public lands. Nearly as many are in captivity, having been removed in roundups. Some of those animals go into the Foundation's Extreme Mustang Makeover competition. Horses of similar size, age, and gender are randomly assigned to volunteers who train them so that they can be handled and ridden.
They don't have any idea what it's going to look like, age, anything. And so you get your horse, and then the contests run anywhere from 100 to 135 days. And after that period of time, you'll bring your horse back and compete against the other trainers in some basic classes, some trail classes, pattern classes, and so forth.
Garner, a retired Navy veteran, placed 5th in the most recent East Coast Mustang training competition in Pennsylvania last summer. The job of training a wild animal is not easy and can be unpredictable. But Garner says he believes that Gus will be ready to compete in conditioning obstacle courses and his freestyle routines. At the end of the event, the horses will be auctioned and adopted.
Training a Mustang is different than training a normal horse, only in the fact that the Mustang is not gentle. A Mustang can be extremely dangerous if you don't know how to handle a horse. So there's two things that happen in this process. We have to gentle the horse down at the same time we're trying to train it. Now, for the average person, adopting a Mustang right from the Bureau of Land Management is probably not a good idea, but the gentled Mustangs that are available after these contests is a great way to get a piece of that American heritage. To be able to take one of those wild animals and turn it into a trusted partner is an absolute privilege, and I'm in awe every time it happens.
If you want to see an authentic Mustang up close, the event and horse barns are open to the public during the Virginia Horse Festival. The festival will feature a trade show, food vendors, demonstrations, clinics, and seminars, a parade of horse breeds, and an agility dog competition. Plus, a gathering of descendants of the famous racehorse Secretariat will take place March 29th. Information can be found at thevirginiahorsefestival.com.
Virginia was the center of colonial America's horse racing industry, and the horse industry continues to be an important part of the Old Dominion's rural economy. The total economic impact of Virginia's horse industry is $1.2 billion. The most economic benefit of that comes from actual horse farms and feed suppliers, but tourism, horse shows, and competitions also generate significant income. In 2010, the horse industry also generated a total of $65.3 million in state and local tax revenue. While the number of horses is highest in northern Virginia counties, you can find the animals in almost every community, from the Shenandoah Valley to Hampton Roads to Southwest Virginia.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about when you can clean up your garden. Stay with us.
We're on Okmulgee Dairy Farm in Amelia County, Virginia.
My great-grandfather moved here in 1898. I started milking cows, I think, in 1902. And been milking cows ever since.
The farm involves my father-in-law, mother-in-law, my husband, his brother, and our 2 boys.
You get to see and get the knowledge of the generation ahead of you, and you get all the education and new ideas from the younger sons behind me.
And I feel a real connection with the land I work every day, and being able to work with my dad and brothers and uncle and grandfather.
You know, we plant stuff, you like to see it grow, build up a good herd of cattle, and think you accomplished something.
You can see the profits of your labor on a daily basis.
And we really take pride in what we do, producing a wholesome product for the consumer.
I am Larkin Moyer, a 4th-generation dairy farmer from Virginia, and I'm dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
Did you clean out your garden last fall? Mark Viette says he prefers to do it in the springtime. Either way, it's time to get ready for planting season in the garden.
If you look around me at this beautiful garden, you don't really see a whole lot. I mean, I see a couple trees, maybe 3 small shrubs. The rest is all bark. Well, this is really not something I personally like to look at all winter long. Now, some of you may like it because it's nice and neat and crisp, but let me give you a few alternatives about when to clean up the garden. I sort of like to have the garden look more natural and to have stuff in it. It also protects the birds. So let's go look at some of the areas in the garden that we've left untouched, and the best time to clean them are going to be in February or March. Well, when you're trimming plants, sometimes we get a little over-aggressive. So I'll mention a couple things, at least one, something that you really don't want to prune, or if you do prune, you do it in a very minimal manner. And that is tree peonies. Of course, regular peonies, they will cut back in the fall, maybe, September or October. But when talking about tree peonies, they form or produce little shrubs. Now, here, be happy if you get one that's 6 feet tall. I know in England and in Holland, they'll be 12, 15 feet tall. But this is a tree peony. So you can cut off the old pods. Again, I like to wait till February or March, but you would come in and remove some of the old pods. It is important, though, to really be careful for the buds, because the flower buds are right underneath those old pods. At the same time, you can remove some of the foliage. That's one that you really don't want to prune hard. I've had people in the past mistakenly prune these, and either they don't come back or they wait for 3 to 4 years for them to bloom again. There are some things that you can prune, like asters. Asters are best pruned, since there's so many different types. I generally say February or March. They still have the seed pods. What I like to do is keep as much cover in the garden to give protection and camouflage for your birds. Once you're done pruning all these things, you also might find that you've got some daylilies and hostas. The other advantage to pruning these things or removing the foliage in the spring is you don't need to cut it. You just reach in and pull the old foliage, just like that. And we're just about done. Now, there is one more important reason I normally wait till spring to clean up the garden, and that is I don't want to have to clean up the garden 3 times. I don't want to have to clean the garden in the fall. When a few leaves fall, go through the garden and rake and clean it a 2nd time. And if you're dealing with some of the oaks, like the pin oaks behind me, they tend to drop their leaves very late. And especially if you had a hard freeze early in the fall, the leaves stay on your tree longer. So I want to cut my work down to a minimum. I wait till February or March, cut back what I can in the garden, and then all you do is just come in. This is the fun workout time. And especially if you have mulch on the ground, raking leaves off mulch 3 times tends to remove a lot of the mulch. So I'm also conserving mulch. And when I'm done, the garden is clean, and I usually take all this refuse, leaves and debris, and I go ahead, put it in my compost pile, so in 2 years, I can go ahead and reintroduce this into the garden as a soil amendment. Again, cut down on all that work unless you're looking for exercise. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
For the ultimate comfort food, we recommend macaroni and cheese. We'll show you how to make it from scratch next in the heart of the home.
Horses, dogs, food, and fun. It's all coming March 27th to the 29th at the Virginia Horse Festival at the Meadow. Experience 3 days of equestrian and family-friendly activities. Shop vendors selling trailers, boots, barns, and food. Watch the Central Virginia Agility Club show off their canines expertise. Attend clinics, demonstrations, and seminars. Cheer on the Extreme Mustang Makeover East Coast Finals. And don't miss the Parade of Breeds. Learn more at virginiahorsefestival.com. It's the Virginia Horse Festival at Meadow Event Park. Don't miss it. Virginia dairy farmers represent the 4th largest segment of the state's farm economy. Their product is processed to make whole milk, skim milk, cream, and other dairy products. The total economic impact of the Old Dominion's dairy industry is $960 million, and there are 8 milk processing plants in the state. The great majority of that milk goes right into a bottle for local sale. Almost all cheese is imported into Virginia from other states. Each dairy cow produces about 2,058 gallons of milk a year, enough to make almost 5 pounds of cheese. And there are about 96,000 dairy cows in Virginia.
Macaroni and cheese is the king of comfort food, especially during these cold winter months. But Carissa Jackson says don't you dare make it from a box. She'll share her family recipe in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Carissa Jackson for Heart of the Home, coming to you from the kitchen at the Meadow Event Park. Today we're going to be making macaroni and cheese with a little spin. We're going to be adding some ham and some spinach to this recipe. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that I've already ahead of time boiled 2 cups of macaroni. That makes about 4 to 6 servings. So just to let you know, those are already done in the interest of time. We're going to start with 2 cups of, I have whole milk here. And we're also going to start with about 1/4 cup of butter. So we're going to put our butter in the pan just to coat it, because what you'll notice is that eventually there's going to be like a film that starts to bubble up when we put all of our ingredients together. And so this just keeps things from sticking to your pan. And because dairy is one of the top 5 commodities in Virginia, you can easily find some Virginia butter anywhere you go. So we are going to get that good and melted. And you can take it off the heat just a little bit because you don't want the butter to burn. And we want to have our eye right at about medium low. And then we'll go ahead when the butter is just about melted and add our milk. All right. Then here I have 1 stick of softened Philadelphia cream cheese. So whatever kind of cream cheese you like to use, I'm gonna go ahead and add that. Basically what's going to happen is we're going to get a pretty thick cheesy paste. We're also going to add 1 cup of sour cream. And then here's the fun part. My family likes 3 cheese macaroni, so we try to put in Monterey Jack, Kobe cheese, we do lots of cheddar. So whatever cheese pretty much tickles your heart, go ahead and add it at this point. I have a big bowl of cheese here because we're going to use some cheese as a topper, but we're also going to use some cheese to melt into the sauce. So I'm going to take about 4 or 5 handfuls. And it's very important to cook this on low because the cheese will burn and you don't want a really messy pan in the end of all this. So we want to fold our cheese into the mix. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, and you can do this to taste. The sauce takes about 10 minutes to simmer. So we're going to go ahead and cook that on low, and then when we come back, it'll be time to layer up our pan. Now that our cheese sauce is prepared, we're going to go ahead and do some mixing. So we're going to start off with our macaroni and cheese. We're going to put this in a large bowl. We are going to add some ham, which Virginia is also very famous for. And we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this mixture first, because it's a lot easier to get seasoned well aside from the sauce, because sometimes the salt and pepper taste can get lost in the cheese sauce. We will mix this up. And then slowly pour in our cheese sauce. So at this point, we're going to do about half of the pot. And the good thing about this is if you make too much, you can always freeze it. All right, then we're going to add a little bit more of the shredded cheese that we have left. So here I have some fresh spinach. So we're going to put that on the bottom of whatever our non-stick pan is. This is a great way of just making a one-pot meal, so you don't have to worry about getting your veggies in or getting whatever meat in. It's all in one dish. And then put our macaroni on top. And if you want, for people who like to have their macaroni and cheese extremely cheesy, you can use some of this leftover sauce once we have layered up the pan and just make it a little extra cheesy. So that's up to you and whatever your preference are. And then we're gonna do another layer of spinach. Then you don't feel so bad for eating all that cheese because you put some vegetables in it. Add the last of our shredded cheese on top. And then here I have 1 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs. You might not need that many, just enough to sprinkle on the top to make a nice crust to melt in with your cheese. That'll give it a bit of a crunch when you bite into it. All right, and we're gonna bake this in the oven at 375 for about 20 to 30 minutes or until the top is golden brown. I've allowed the mac and cheese to cool for about 20 to 30 minutes. We want to allow the cheese to set. That way when we cut it, it's easier to serve. And you'll see that even after sitting, steam still comes right out, so it's still very hot and delicious. And the spinach is already cooked through, which is why we didn't have to do that ahead of time. I'm Cressa Jackson for Heart of the Home, and this is cheesy macaroni and cheese with ham and spinach. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org.
We all want healthy rivers and streams, but we can't do that without help from Virginia's landowners. Resource Management Plans, or RMPs, are part of a voluntary program that helps farmers get credit for cleaning up our waters. And once you have an RMP, you are exempt from any new water quality requirements for 9 years. The Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation has funds available to help you implement these plans. Contact the department today to learn more. Thank you.
This message sponsored by Virginia's agriculture community.
Rescue workers train every day to save lives, but when they're dealing with farmers who work in remote areas with farm machinery, it can be quite dangerous. Dave Miller reports that's why special training programs are being offered to rural fire departments.
Farming is the third most dangerous occupation in the U.S. According to unofficial statistics from the Virginia Farm Bureau, each year in the past decade, an average of 28 people have died in farm-related accidents in Virginia. That's why a recent farm medic training program was held in Southside, Virginia, sponsored by the Farm Bureau Young Farmers Committee. The goal was both to train emergency personnel and families on how to respond to on-farm accidents as well as prevent them.
One of the first things that we wanted to do was raise awareness among fire and EMS personnel, as well as teach them ways to respond to agricultural injuries in a way that keeps them safe and gives the best opportunity for recovery to the farmer and the victim of the incident. The old adage that it'll never happen to me is not true. Farming injuries happen in a second.
26 emergency personnel from Pittsylvania, Giles, Botetourt, Montgomery, and Bedford counties took the training, held at the Old Dominion Agricultural Complex in Pittsylvania County. Farm Medic is a nationally recognized emergency response training program. The recent Virginia participants will take their knowledge back to fellow rescue workers.
Now, try to think about how you're going to open this up. Come in and do your cut, or you cut this way, because now we need to butterfly it open. And what we try to do is come in and give the responder, EMS, and fire and rescue squad people an idea of kind of injuries they will see on the farm, the different kind of machinery they'll see on the farm, how to stabilize the machinery, how to do safe extrications, how to work with the farmer community. And the big part of it is also prevention of the injuries, reaching out to the family and establishing safety plans for the family.
The trainees had to quickly assess a situation and come up with several approaches to complete each extraction. They used tools from cutters, jacks, and chainsaws all the way to the jaws of life. The goal was to remove an accident victim with as little trauma as possible. And even if the participants were farmers themselves, the techniques they were practicing were often new to them.
Whether we are mechanics, farmers, or full-time in other occupations, we all have a great understanding of what needs to happen on a big scene with heavy equipment and how to safely assist others.
In addition to rescue training, the Farm Medic approach teaches responders how to visit local farms and talk about safety issues. They also gather information on how to reach more remote areas of local farms. Preventing injuries or deaths is a primary goal, and tractor rollovers are the #1 preventable accident.
Since 1976, tractors come with roll bars and seat belts. That was an OSHA standard. What happens to most of farmers is if it's inconvenient, it won't fit in our buildings, or it inconveniences us turn around and watching our disc while we're doing something, we tend to fold it down or cut it off. We don't wear the seat belt. So we have to make that safety change. That the rollover protective structure is there for us. The seat belt is there for us. A tractor upset happens in about 0.3 of a second. We don't have time to jump.
Emerson adds that the responsibility for operating safely is squarely on the farm worker. Because farmers work in such a risky environment, thinking ahead is essential to being safe. The key to the Farm Medic program for rescue workers is knowledge of both prevention and rescue. But it's a team effort. The farm operator has to do his or her part. By working together and being ready for just about anything, lives can be saved. From Pennsylvania County, this is Dave Miller reporting.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We're so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer, whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape. We're proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia.